Let's talk about coding across the curriculum. How can you incorporate coding into your science class or your English class? I'm going to share with you a few of my ideas and some examples. Scratch is a great tool for making animations, and once students can build a scene, they can tell a story. And storytelling has application for any subject. Here's an example of just a short little animation that can be built in Scratch. So here we have this brief interaction with the bird stealing a ball. I had a background change, I had some conversation between my two characters. So on a very basic level, I can use coding to make a story. Now Scratch has libraries where I can quickly pull in characters and backdrops and be up and running, but it also has the ability for students to really create and make it their own. They can draw characters and backgrounds. They can also upload any image, even photos of themselves. They could take 10 pictures of themselves with different face expressions and use themselves as a character for their own storytelling. They can type speech into word bubbles like you just saw, or they can actually record their own dialogue and their own sounds. They can also upload audio files. Let me show you part of an animation where the student has actually drawn all of the elements and recorded their own audio.
One ticket for space worms, please. I've been waiting 2 years for this movie to come out, and it's finally here.
So once your students can animate a scene to tell a story, there's lots of application for the classroom. If you're teaching English, you could ask students to animate a key scene from the novel you're studying. They could also illustrate literary terms like foreshadowing or irony, or even a grammatical concept. In history, students can animate an interview with a historical character, or they can explain or recreate a historical event. In science, they can animate a process like cell mitosis, photosynthesis, or maybe the phases of the moon. In math, they can demonstrate how to solve an equation. They can make any sort of how-to or step-by-step guide to a process that's applicable to your class. They can use their coding skills to create really any kind of narrative structure to demonstrate their learning for your course. Think of Scratch as a presentation tool as well. Do you currently have an activity where your students perhaps are creating a PowerPoint or Google slideshow or maybe a video? Have them just code their presentation in Scratch instead. Here's an example of what something like that might look like. If your students have been creating dioramas or brochures or poster boards, let them try presenting their research with a Scratch program instead. Here's an example where it's a bit more interactive. You can click through to see the content. One advantage of using Scratch instead of a static artifact like a poster is that students can add that level of interactivity. Once they understand how to program conditions to branch their programs, they can create alternate paths for their users, just like a choose your own adventure story. So that means instead of writing a research report on the Queens of England, why not a Scratch program like this one? Or instead of making a big foam model of a cell, what about an interactive diagram like this program? Check out this program. A student was asked to create a study guide for the phases of the moon, and they made this great interactive program where you actually drag the phases out and practice putting them in the correct order, and there's a little check button that will move them where they need to go. Here's some more ideas. In history, ask them to create an interactive timeline where they click on different sections to get more information. For foreign language, have them create an interactive picture dictionary. For math, create a graphing program where the user inputs the coordinates and the sprite goes to that spot. Another coding possibility that can be applied to any class is quizzing. We often ask students to create review materials at the end of a unit, and they can use Scratch to create a program that asks questions and then responds differently based upon the user's answer. In this program, the user has to input specific information, and then notice how the sprite responds. So my program is verifying my answers. It can tell me if I get them right or wrong, which means students can use Scratch to make their own review materials. In this math review quiz, I can choose which areas I want to be included in my quiz. So I'm going to pick addition and multiplication. I can select my level of difficulty here with my slider. I can decide how many questions I want. Okay, how much is 11 plus 12? That's right, and he even told me how long I took to answer. I'm going to do this one wrong so we can see what happens. He told me it was incorrect, and he provides me with the feedback of the correct answer. Now I show you this because I just want to demonstrate the complexity of code that students could be potentially learning while also reinforcing concepts in their core curriculum. Scratch also has a pen tool where the user can be drawing as part of the program. It can be set up to where the ink is following my mouse or my arrow keys, or it can be pre-programmed. So in this particular example, let me go ahead and play it for you. I have programmed the pen tool to create this shape, and you can see some of the code here on the left. For this particular example, I can really see some application for a geometry class since students have to calculate the angles to create certain shapes and patterns. You could also use the drawing tool to make a graphing program. There are pretty robust digital drawing tools within Scratch. Students in an art class could be challenged to truly animate a hand-drawn character through the creation of costumes. Much like the Disney animations of old, they can create movement from many drawings. So in order to make the movements of these two characters, lots of individual drawings were involved. So for example, here's that pencil bending back and forth. That is made with all of these different costumes. Now take a look at some of this character's costumes. Finally, you can write music in Scratch. The program gives you access to a full range of musical notes, and you can create chords just by running multiple scripts at the same time. There are also many different instrumental sounds to choose from. Let's take a listen. So if you have been asked to integrate coding into your class, I would strongly encourage you to make Scratch your tool. It's very dynamic and it will truly unleash your students' creativity. If you need some resources to get your students started with Scratch, I have 2 coding courses available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. You can follow tinyurl.com/RenaBurdett to go straight there. This is my more basic curriculum for young beginners. It is 7 units long. And then I also have a second coding curriculum that is geared more towards older students. The pace is a bit faster and it covers some more advanced features of Scratch like writing music, drawing, cloning, and video sensing. My store name on Teachers Pay Teachers is Miss B's Shop, and I cover quite a few other subjects as well. Please feel free to contact me through my website with any questions you may have, and please check out the other resources I've posted on this page. For example, if you join my email list, you will receive a free excerpt from my book.